What's going on, Lions fans? Welcome to the Pride of Detroit YouTube channel. My name is Miko, joined once again by my guy Morgan Cannon, and this is your go-to place for all things Lions related. That includes news, updates, analysis, and so much more. Morgan, today we are going to be jumping into some news that broke yesterday that I think got the fan base pretty excited about the possibility of a future roster move for our hometown team. And I think that's something that's kind of worth talking about, and we're talking about the news surrounding a former Detroit Lions pass rusher, Za'Darius Smith, who was actually at the BET Awards, which I guess is still pretty popular. I'm honestly a little surprised that people still watch the BET Awards. But Za'Darius got spotted there and actually, I guess was asked about his return to the Lions and where he wants to play next season, and had this to say, and this quote comes via, USA Today. "We both know where I want to be," Smith told USA Today at the BET Awards. "Hopefully I can get back to Detroit because the coaching staff and everyone in the front office are great. When I'm there, I feel like a leader and like I can influence the young guys and do great things. Hopefully I can get back to where I want to be in Detroit." Morgan, that's more than just like a, hey, we'll see if it plays out. Like, this seems as strong of an endorsement or as strong as a comment about Za'Darius wanting to be back in Detroit than we've heard this entire offseason since he was released. First and foremost, what do you make of this comment? And then let's kind of take the conversation a step further from there, which is, if Za'Darius is talking about wanting to be back this aggressively, what do you think is the holdup in regards to him getting back to Detroit?
Yeah, man. So first of all, I love it. I love hearing that from Za'Darius. Shout out Cash Doll. If y'all don't know who Cash Doll is and you're not, familiar with Detroit and like Detroit's culture, Google her. She's been her for a long time. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Respectfully, Za'Darius, respectfully, of course. But yeah, man, from where are we at? Like, why hasn't it happened yet? I think there are really just two bullet points if you're Za'Darius and the Lions. And really, I think they're probably coming from the Lions. Where are we at money-wise, right? Like, it could be a nice little guaranteed sum of money. I don't want to speculate on, dollars and cents just because we don't know. I'd have to do a little research. Maybe we can attach something to that. But I think it'd be a nice little guarantee, maybe a guaranteed salary with some incentives. And then the second thing, that would probably have to be talked about is Za'Darius going to be okay with, being the second or third dog, depending on how you look at the Lions defensive line going forward. So if they did add him, would he be cool, splitting time with Marcus Davenport at the big end spot opposite Aiden Hutchinson? Is that going to be, good for him? Because the man's a former All-Pro. He's been in the league a long time now. He's, going on 33 years old. He's earned it, right? Like, he can kind of call his shot in that regard, in my opinion. But I would think him speaking so highly of the coaching staff and the front office, he'd probably be okay with that, Miko. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's that other part of his quote where he talks about being a leader and wanting to impact the younger guys, where it at least gives you the impression that, like, hey, maybe he would be okay, like you said, maybe playing third fiddle behind Aiden Hutchinson, behind, a Marcus Davenport, and being that guy that is just, a part of the rotation that maybe helps split some snaps on first and second down with Marcus Davenport so that you don't have to worry about him having to play 60 plus snaps a week. And then still coming in on third downs occasionally. We know that, in the past, this Lions defense has always been very creative in terms of how they've used, their defensive pieces. There's still, space on this defense to find room for Marcus Davenport on third down situations so that he doesn't feel like he doesn't get opportunities to rush the passer. So I think from my standpoint, I think getting him back, and even if it is as a third edge rusher on this team, is still a good get for you when you talk about you talk about how long he's been in the career or in the NFL. That experience could be very valuable to a guy like Ahmed Hassanin, who's still needs to learn a lot of the game. And if Za'Darius could come in and kind of take him under his wing and be that mentor for him, that could be, very great development for him. It's the same with Mekhi Wingo and others that the Lions have in that defensive line room. So that's something that's very appealing to me. I will say, on the flip side of that, right? You look at the season that Za'Darius had last year and over the last couple seasons, he's still highly productive. So I could understand if that is a hiccup in terms of playing time, where he, from his standpoint, is like, hey, I'm still producing at a high level. Why do I have to play third fiddle to a guy? Again, no disrespect to Marcus Davenport, but it has had some trouble staying healthy. Maybe he should be the guy that should be taking the third role while Za'Darius gets, to take shotgun next to Hutch.
Yeah, we know this coaching staff will just have, the best player will get the most snaps. Just that's just how they operate. This whole organization is predicated on competitive, being competitive at every rep, every phase of the game, you name it. So, and yeah, I love the point about Ahmed Hassanin. Like, you couldn't ask for better vets if you have a Za'Darius Smith, a Marcus Davenport in your room. Like, that's awesome. Casey Rogers is your coach. Like, what better place to develop your craft? But yeah, I get it if you're Za'Darius, and there could be Marcus Davenport could be the one that takes, like, a little bit less of the snaps. Like, but in terms of, like, if they were splitting a Davenport and Za'Darius Smith. But either way, you get guys who, those are both 3-down players. They're good against the run. They're both big, physical cats. Davenport will run through your face over and over again. He can set an edge. Za'Darius is a little bit more nuanced as a pass rusher at this stage in his game. But both of them, like, having them two opposite Hutchinson, and we got Josh Paschal, and you got this deep room. I don't care what anybody says. You add Za'Darius, this is a deep, talented room, man, and I would feel really good moving forward.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like, I don't think there's a lose-lose situation in terms of like who gets on the field when you talk about the Detroit Lions. I understand the financial aspect of it. And like you said, we can't really speculate to what the contract would be. I know we do have an article up on prideofdetroit.com where, we do at least take a shot at what a contract for Za'Darius Smith would look like if the Lions were to bring him back. I think the thing that we can firmly say, though, Morgan, is that it is going to be south of 11 million, right? Like that it's got to be less than that, because that's the reason that the Lions cut him in the first place, was like, hey, they weren't really comfortable, or that salary cap hit didn't really fit in their budget, for this upcoming season. But at the same time, like, if I had to speculate, I would say anything from like 6 to 7 million, maybe with a couple incentives here and there to maybe boost it up to maybe 9, would be a good deal for Za'Darius, right? Again, I can't say what's acceptable to him, but I think from a Lions perspective, that seems like a very fair wage for a guy that is either, like you said, either he's your starting defensive end opposite Aiden Hutchinson, or even if he's just a high volume, DN3 that's getting a lot of, 30 snaps a game type of situation. I still think that's a very good wage for him.
Yeah, shout out Jeremy for that open thread. I hadn't looked at the website yet today, so that's a brilliant move there, Jeremy. Bravo. But yeah, I just read his article. That's kind of what I was thinking in my head, anywhere from like that $5 to $8 million base with some incentives. So yeah, like, I'm fine with that, man, because you're reinforcing a room that, in my opinion, is going to be a lot better than people think it's going to be, especially hopefully when they get all of their teeth back with Aleem, maybe in the back half of the season, because you're going to have everything at your disposal then, hopefully. This could be a scary group. So yeah, and if you're Za'Darius, I think that's, could you get a little bit more elsewhere if you really wanted to? Yeah, probably. But are you going to be competing for a Super Bowl and, living where the love of your life, as it seems? I mean, they're always together, bro. I don't,
Yeah.
So, like, come on, man. It seems like a win-win for everybody. Let's go, Z. Let's do it.
I was gonna say, keep the love connection strong, right? She gets to be able to see you play every week. Like, keep it all,
Get a suite.
exactly.
Come on, man. We
Keep
could
it
put her in
all
Big Sean
very
suite. We could,
keep
there's many things we could do.
yeah, keep it all very copacetic over here in Detroit that way. And so,
Yeah.
like, I'm all for it. I think Lions fans, like I said, I think this is news that Lions fans were dying to hear. And it is. I think it's something to kind of keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks, because training camp is going to be coming up soon. And I feel like that's a move that you would like to make if you're the Detroit Lions. You would like to make a firm decision on that, make a strong offer. And if you're the Darius, you would like to make a decision on where you're going to play before training camp starts to kick off for a lot of places. You got to, like I said, you have a couple weeks, because this is around the time that mandatory minicamp is going on. And so the Lions don't have to worry about that. But you definitely want to be there probably for that first week of training camp, especially with a new defensive coordinator, and to be able to understand what Kelvin Shepard, how he envisions using you as a part of this roster.
Yeah, and it'll be a new defensive line coach too, for Za'Darius, going from Terrell Williams last year to Casey Rogers in 2025. So that'll be a little bit of a transition too. But he's a vet, like we said. So yeah, hopefully they'll get a deal done here in the next couple weeks, and he'll have everything. He can get his place lined up, everything. Because I mean, shoot, dude, we're only a month and 9 days away from training camp getting underway for the Lions. That's why Dan Campbell ended up changing the schedule, because it's going to get on us here quick. So yeah, to that point, Miko, I hope let's get it done, Brad. Let's get this all signed and sealed, and get ready to go chase this Lombardi. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Right there with you, my guy. So that's at least our opinion on the situation, guys. We would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. What do you guys think the Lions should be doing in regards to Za'Darius Smith? And do you think, like Morgan and I, that, you know, it's possibly something to do with contract and playing time? And how would you structure the Lions defensive line rotation if you were to bring Za'Darius Smith back? Would you prefer him to be the starter, or would you prefer him to be the guy that's rotating with Marcus Davenport and letting Davenport be the starter for the Lions opposite Hutch? Definitely would love to hear that stuff from you guys in the comment section. And like I mentioned earlier, there is an article over on Pride of Detroit where Jeremy does do a good job of at least, again, speculating to what type of contract we could expect for Za'Darius Smith. Definitely check that out if you're kind of curious on what the Lions could be thinking. Again, Jeremy's not saying that's what they are thinking, but would at least make sense based on how the Lions have moved in the past. Like always, if you're looking to stay up to date with all the video content we're doing over here on YouTube, all you have to do is hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That makes it so much easier for you to find our video content whenever you open the YouTube app. You don't have to go searching. You can just go to your subscription portion. Videos will be there. Easy peasy.